You have something important to do right now. You know what it is. You've known what it is for 3 days, maybe 3 weeks, maybe longer. And instead of doing it, you're watching this video, which is fine. I'm not judging you. I'm about to explain exactly why you're doing this. And it has nothing to do with the thing everyone blames. It's not laziness. I know that's what you've been telling yourself. I know it's what the productivity gurus tell you. You just need more discipline, more motivation, a better morning routine, a color-coded planner. That's all wrong. And the fact that it's wrong is actually good news, because it means you've been trying to fix the wrong thing. That's not a motivational quote. That's what the research actually says. And once you understand the mechanism, the real one, not the pop psychology version, the behavior stops being a character flaw and starts being a very predictable response to a very specific internal condition. My name is Rick. I spend a disproportionate amount of time looking at behavioral psychology research and thinking about why smart people systematically undermine themselves, and what the actual mechanism is, rather than the story they've been sold. If you want content that respects your intelligence and skips the motivational poster version of self-help, subscribe, leave a like if this ends up being useful, and let's get into it. Let me describe the standard procrastination loop, and you tell me if this sounds familiar. You have a task. It's important. It might be a report, a difficult conversation, a medical appointment you've been putting off, a creative project you actually care about. The deadline is real. The stakes are real. And yet, you find yourself doing almost anything else. Checking email for the 4th time. Reorganizing something that didn't need reorganizing. Starting a completely different task that suddenly feels urgent. Watching one more video, then another. And here's the part that makes it worse. You're not relaxing. You know you're procrastinating. The task is still there, in the background, creating this low-level hum of dread and guilt that makes the avoidance less and less enjoyable over time. By the end of the day, you haven't done the task, and you've also failed to actually rest. You just feel bad in a different location. Then you go to bed, tell yourself tomorrow will be different, set 3 alarms you know you'll snooze, and do it again. This cycle, and I want to be very precise about this, is not a motivation problem. People who procrastinate are often highly motivated. They care deeply about the outcome. They want to do the work. In 2013, researchers Fushia Sirois and Timothy Feichel at Carleton University published what is probably the most important paper on procrastination that nobody in the productivity space ever cites. Their finding was straightforward and deeply uncomfortable. Procrastination is a failure of emotion regulation, not time management. Specifically, people procrastinate to avoid the negative emotional states associated with a task, not to avoid the task itself. Let that land for a second. You're not avoiding the report. You're avoiding how it feels to start the report, the self-doubt, the fear of imperfection, the anxiety about whether it'll be good enough, the boredom of the early stages before it gets interesting. The task is just the trigger. The feeling is what you're actually running from. You're not lazy. You're doing a very competent job of protecting yourself from an emotional experience. You're just doing it in a way that creates more of the exact experience you're trying to avoid. The procrastination itself generates guilt, shame, and more anxiety, which now adds to the original emotional load around the task. So now the task feels even more threatening to approach. So you avoid it more. The emotional debt compounds. Not everything gets procrastinated equally. People tend to delay tasks that are associated with specific negative emotional states. Research consistently identifies 5 main categories. Fear of failure. The task's outcome might confirm an inadequacy you're afraid is real. Fear of success. Success would raise expectations, create new responsibilities, or change how others see you. Perfectionism. Starting means potentially producing something imperfect, which feels more threatening than not starting at all. Boredom. Low stimulation. Some brains, especially ADHD type, require a higher emotional charge to initiate. Dread or urgency can actually help. Resentment. The task was assigned, not chosen. Delay is a low-cost form of autonomy assertion, usually unconscious. The reason most productivity advice fails is that it addresses the time problem without ever touching the emotional one. You can have the best task management system on earth, and, if the emotional trigger is strong enough, you'll procrastinate on using the task management system. There's a reason procrastination is so painful compared to, say, forgetting to buy milk. Most people don't just procrastinate on tasks. They've built procrastination into their identity. I'm a procrastinator. It's how they introduce the problem. And identity is one of the most protected structures in human psychology. We defend it even when it's hurting us. Here's why that matters. When you frame procrastination as something you are instead of something you do, you remove the possibility of change. You turn a behavioral pattern into a fixed trait. And fixed traits don't get addressed. They just get managed or apologized for. You're not a procrastinator. You're someone who currently uses procrastination to manage specific emotional experiences around specific types of tasks. That's a behavior. Behaviors can change. Identities feel permanent. The shift from I am a procrastinator to I procrastinate when I feel afraid of judgment on work that matters to me is not just semantic. It's the difference between a diagnosis and a dead end. Here's something that will probably irritate the productivity crowd. Research consistently shows that self-criticism makes procrastination worse, and self-compassion makes it better. A 2010 study by Michael Wohl and colleagues found that students who forgave themselves for procrastinating on an exam procrastinated significantly less on the next one. Students who beat themselves up about it procrastinated more. The mechanism is straightforward. Self-criticism increases the negative emotional state around the task. More negative emotional state means a stronger avoidance response. You made the thing you're afraid of even more threatening by attacking yourself for being afraid of it. This is not permission to avoid accountability. It's a mechanical observation about what actually reduces the behavior versus what makes it worse. There's one more layer here that doesn't get enough attention. The human brain processes rewards and consequences with a strong bias toward the immediate. The discomfort of starting a task is immediate and certain. The reward of completing it is distant and probabilistic. In that calculation, avoidance wins almost every time. Not because you're weak, but because that's how the dopamine system was calibrated. This is called hyperbolic discounting, the tendency to value immediate rewards disproportionately over future ones. And it's not a personal failing. It's in the architecture. Your brain was not designed to care about Thursday's deadline on Tuesday morning. It was designed to care about what's happening right now. Thursday is basically fiction to your nervous system. This is why deadline pressure actually works for many procrastinators. It collapses the temporal distance between now and the consequence, making the future feel real enough to overcome the avoidance. The problem is it's not sustainable, it's high cortisol, and it trains the brain to need that urgency to function. Here's where most people take this information and immediately do something counterproductive with it. They hear, procrastination is an emotion regulation problem, and they conclude, so I need to fix my emotions first. I need to feel motivated. I need to feel ready. I need to feel like doing it before I start. That's backwards, and it will keep you stuck indefinitely. Motivation is not a prerequisite for action. In most behavioral research, it's actually the other way around. Action produces motivation, not the other way around. You don't wait until you feel like going to the gym. You go, and then you feel like going. The same principle applies here. The emotion regulation goal is not to eliminate the discomfort before starting. It's to develop a higher tolerance for doing something while uncomfortable. You're never going to feel like doing the hard thing. That feeling is not coming. What changes is your ability to start without waiting for it. The second mistake. People try to make the task less threatening by reducing its scope to the point of meaninglessness. I'll just write one sentence. And when one sentence produces the same anxiety as the full document, they feel even more broken. The issue isn't the size of the task. The issue is the emotional association. You can break a task into 100 microsteps and still procrastinate on the first one if the core emotional trigger hasn't been named. The most useful thing you can do with this information is not a new system. It's a question. What specifically am I afraid this task will reveal or require? Name the actual emotion. Not, I don't want to do this. What is the precise flavor of discomfort? Fear of judgment, boredom, resentment, perfectionism. That specificity is where actual change becomes possible. So, procrastination is not laziness. It's not a discipline failure. It's not a productivity problem. It's an emotion regulation strategy, one that works in the short term by removing discomfort and fails in the long term by compounding it. The loop is self-sustaining precisely because the thing that's supposed to help makes the underlying problem worse. Understanding the mechanism doesn't automatically fix it, but it does change the question from what's wrong with me to what am I actually trying to avoid here? And that second question has an answer. The first one doesn't. If this reframed how you think about the pattern, the like helps this kind of content reach people who need it. And if you want to understand the next layer of this, specifically, why ambitious people are disproportionately vulnerable to self-sabotage loops and what makes them harder to break, that video is right here.